HMRC tax penalty regime. What am I talking about? I am talking about when there is a compliance failure and a tax advantage that shouldn't arise, how the taxpayer is penalised to A, correct the compliance, and B, remind the taxpayer about the situation so it doesn't happen again. Now, there are 3 tiers to the penalty regime. There is carelessness, deliberate, conceal. So, if you submit a tax return and it's got an error in it, and you didn't intend to do that, but it is typically treated as being careless. If you are careless, the typical tax penalty you can face is anything up to 30% of the tax advantage, in other words, the tax that HMRC would have lost had they not spotted the error. And the way in which they will actually make use of the regime is how quickly you came on board. So if you came on board and prompted and told HMRC, that will push the penalty level down. If you had to be prompted by HMRC, that will push the penalty up. And what they particularly don't like, of course, is if you get pushed and you maintain the position and you maintain a position which is unsustainable, then they will push the penalty even higher in that scale. And so when we move up from carelessness to deliberate, the regime says that they can fine you up to 70% of the tax advantage, and they don't like it, obviously, because you've deliberately set about obtaining a tax advantage you're not entitled to. That is not something that HMRC is going to really stand for, clearly. But there is still a higher level than deliberate conduct, and that is if you go further than deliberate and you conceal the position, so you engage in some additional nefarious element that enables gains, for example, in the sale of assets or income to be concealed, so that HMRC really cannot spot something without something coming out of the woodwork and so on, and making it much more difficult for them to do that. Then in those circumstances, they can go all the way up to 100%. So if you had a tax advantage of £100,000, you could end up with a whopping great bill of £200,000 in that kind of circumstance. Questions, queries, concerns, give us a shout. We know insolvency and tax, and winding up inside out.